Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're regular here, you know I review many photographic, audio, video related products. Well, today we're taking a brief look at the Nikon Z50 to 250 DX lens. Now, it's a DX lens, so it's designed for the crop sensor Nikon Z Mount bodies. I laugh because it all gets a bit of a mouthful when you try to describe these lenses. I miss the VR bit. It's got VR built into the lens as well. And it's designed for the likes of this camera, the new Nikon Z30. Now, I have done a video review of a Nikon Z30. I'll leave a link up here somewhere. And I've also looked at the Nikon Z30 as far as handling is concerned. And I'll put a link to that up here somewhere as well. And it's a great camera. I'm really enjoying this camera. It's one of my favourite cameras, actually. So I purchased it to use with the Z30. Being that it's a DX lens, it'll work with the Z50 and the ZFC. It will also work, as it's a Z mount lens, it will work on your Z6, your Z7, your Z5, but it will work in crop sensor mode, it will work in DX mode. So certainly be conscious of that. You will lose resolution. It will drop down quite dramatically. So it's probably not a good idea to use it on your full frame bodies, but it will work on your full frame bodies. Now, here it is. This is the lens. Now, it's a really lightweight. I put in the video what the weight of it is. It's a really lightweight lens. And as I say, it's a 50 to 250. So that's about a 75 to 375 in full frame terms, if this was a full frame lens. So that's the sort of reach you're going to get. So it's a really decent short telephoto to long telephoto lens, and a very lightweight and a very compact body, really. The zoom does trombone when you zoom out, so that does make it a lot more front heavy once you're zoomed out. But because the lens itself is so light anyway, that's not a big issue. If it was a heavier lens, I think that would be an issue and something to be concerned about. Because the lens is so light, I don't see that as being an issue. And it's a VR lens, which is really, really helpful. VR, vibration reduction, that's Nikon's terms for image stabilization, effectively. And I mean, it's about 4.5 stops of image stabilization you get using this lens. And it works great on the Z30. Now, I say the Z30 because I haven't used it on the Z50 or the ZFC. I've only used it on the Z30, and I was delighted with the results that I got with it. And I think you people will be as well. You guys and girls will be very happy with the results from this particular lens. As it's a cost-effective lens, I almost said cheap lens, cost-effective lens, image quality is great, but you might suffer a wee bit in low light because the widest aperture is f4.5 at 50mm down to 6.3 at 250, and it does drop quite dramatically as you go through the zoom range. So it isn't a fast lens, as what we would call it a fast lens. It doesn't go down to like f4 or certainly f2.8, but if it did, it would be an incredibly heavy lens. It would be far more expensive, and it would be, you know, as I say, a lot heavier. But you know, this is a lens, as I say, is f4.5 to 6.3. To me, that's not an issue. I've used it outdoors, even in fairly dim light. Just crank up the ISO a bit, and with these modern APS-C cameras, you can crank up the ISO, not incredibly high, but certainly more than what you could on, say, a Micro Four Thirds body. So let's now put it on my Z30, and you see how well it looks then. And so it is your standard Z mount, so it fits straight onto the Z30 without using adapters. And the balance on the Z30 I think is great. So that is now on the Z30, balances nicely. There is no switches or anything on the lens because it's got vibration reduction built in. If you want to turn off the vibration reduction, I don't know why you would want to, but if you did, you do it via the camera body. Same with manual focus. If you want to turn to manual focus, you do it via the camera body. But I use autofocus. I mean, it has got a manual focus ring. If you want to do manual focus on it, you've got the ring just there, which you can use manual focus with, but I don't. I leave it on autofocus, and it works a treat. And you know, if we just quickly go through some of these images now, because this camera body has got animal eye detect, I've used it quite a lot for photographing my cats. So, and it works beautiful. And it's really, really sharp. And the great thing using it on the Z30, because of the articulating screen on the Z30, I can do low angle shots having the screen out like this and still get some really great low angle shots without me having to get on my hands and knees. And I think that is, you know, that is awesome. If we look at, say for example, this one here. Now, the eye autofocus on the cameras shot straight through this foliage in the foreground and focused on Molly's eye in the background. And look at that, it's lovely and sharp, it's beautiful, you know, it's worked a treat. So no problem using this lens on your Z mount, you know, whether it be the Z50, Z30, ZFC or whatever. Again, focuses on the eye beautifully. Even here, where he's yawning, you know, it's picked up the eye beautifully, you know, it's really, really good. And even if you're photographing other things other than, you know, cats and dogs, it's still great. You've got bokeh, even though it isn't a bokeh lens, because the aperture range really doesn't, you know, work that well for bokeh. But if you're in quite a long telephoto, I don't know what that was set at actually. That is set at 125mm. So that's, well, it's about halfway through its range, and you still got bokeh. You still got bokeh in the background, and it's nice. It's a nice, pleasant bokeh. It's not like an obnoxious, nasty bokeh. So works great. And even there, that's shot at 110mm. You still got some bokeh in the background there. So you know, it's a good lens. It is a really, really nice lens. Again, you can see the foreground is separated from the background, and I mean that's great. That's at 155mm, so that's at ISO 3600, and it handles, this camera handles that sort of ISO range fine. And if you're in brighter conditions, you know, it'll work fine. You do need to be careful that you don't use this lens in real low light. You wouldn't want to use it in an indoor sports arena, for example, because the aperture range just isn't wide enough for that. You'd be shooting at far too high an ISO. But with that, it's got image stabilization. I mean, I think that is great. You don't have to worry about it not being in the camera body, because these camera bodies don't have image stabilization. So it's an all-round good, you know, cost-effective telephoto lens, and I think it's great for me because it's lightweight, and I can take that out with me without worrying about the weight of it. It is so lightweight and so decent on you know, the Z30 or even the Z50, but the grip on the Z30 works great with that, so very happy with that. Now these images will be on my Flickr site. I will leave a link in the description to where you can find the images on the Flickr site. It'd be much better looking at them on Flickr than it will be looking at them on this YouTube channel, although I've quickly gone through them, because Flickr, you can actually study them on Flickr much better than you can obviously on the YouTube video, and they're not compressed either. So, you know, well worth doing that. So there we go. That's a quick introduction to the Nikon Z 50 to 250 lens designed for the APS-C bodies. I might play with it on my Z5 just to see, but as I say, in video it's fine because it's 4K video on the Z5 in crop sensor mode anyway, but I wouldn't be using this as a video lens really. So I might play with it on the Z5 for taking some stills, but I'm going to end up with like 10 megapixel images as opposed to the 24 megapixels that the Z5 can produce with a proper full frame lens. But it's worth playing with. But as I say, I'm enjoying it on my Z30, which has the 20.9 megapixel APS-C sensor. So there we go. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you found that useful. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Hit the like button if you like the content of my videos. Really appreciate that. Helps me grow the channel. And stay tuned for more videos relating to video and photography. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so. That would be fantastic. So thanks very much. Cheers for now. Bye.